I poisoned my mother's coffee that morning. Not with arsenic, but with the bitter truth she'd buried for 20 years, the kind of secret that unravels dynasties and leaves you choking on your own lies. She sipped it slowly, her manicured hands trembling just enough to spill a drop on the antique lace doily my grandmother stitched before the cancer took her. The same cancer they'd all sworn wasn't hereditary until it clawed into me. And as her eyes widened, not in pain, but in the dawning horror of a woman realizing her empire of deceit was crumbling, I whispered, "Welcome to the family reunion,
Mom."
This time, I'm the one holding the knife. It started in the fluorescent hell of that Seattle hospital room, where the chemo drips hung like for guilt, pumping poison into my veins to kill the monster growing in my breast. I was 32, Mackenzie Hale, the black sheep who'd clawed her way from a trailer park in Spokane to a corner office at a mid-tier tech firm, only to get handed a pink slip disguised as restructuring right as the biopsy came back stage 3. Triple negative, the oncologist said, like it was just another app update gone wrong. Aggressive. No targeted therapies. Just cut, poison, burn, repeat. My family? They were ghosts in tailored suits, materializing only long enough to deliver the ultimatum. "You're a liability now, Kenzie," my brother Derek had said, his voice all boardroom polish, the kind honed at Wharton while I bootstrapped code in coffee shops. He was the golden boy, heir to Hale Dynamics, our father's legacy of defense contracts and shadowy government gigs that paid for the family yacht docked in Puget Sound. Dad was already gone, heart attack at 58, or so they claimed, but Mom, Evelyn Hale, ran the show like a queen in exile, her Botox-smooth face masking the steel that built our fortune on other people's secrets. Derek stood there in his Brooks Brothers, flanked by my sister Lila, the socialite who'd married into old money and pretended our roots were Mayflower deep, not mudflat poor. "We can't have you dragging us down," Lila added, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light like a noose. The optics. Investors ask questions. And with Dad's estate still in probate, she trailed off. But I knew. The will. The shares. The clause that tied family unity to the company charter. A legal fiction Dad cooked up to keep us leashed. I laughed then. A wet, ragged sound that echoed off the beige walls. "Dragging you down? I've been carrying you assholes since I was 16, coding your firewalls while you partied on Daddy's dime." But they didn't flinch. Mom had prepped them. Her emails crisp and corporate. Focus on the business. Darlings. Kenzie's always been resilient. Resilient. Code for disposable. They left that afternoon, Derek slipping a check for 10 grand into my purse like hush money for treatments.
"Sis.
Call if you need anything." I tore it up in the bathroom, watching the confetti swirl down the drain with my hair clumps. That night, alone with the morphine haze and the hum of the pump, I started plotting. Not revenge. Not yet. Survival. I had my laptop, a half-baked AI idea born from late-night scrolls on neural nets, and a fire in my gut hotter than the fever. Hale Dynamics dealt in surveillance tech, drones that spied on enemies abroad, algorithms that predicted riots at home. Ironic. Really. They'd built their empire on watching others crumble, but they never saw me coming. By week 3 of chemo, my apartment was a war zone of takeout boxes and code printouts. I'd named it Revenant AI, Ghosts in the Machine, pulling strings from the grave. It was simple at first, an algorithm that sifted through public records,
Social feeds.
and leaked docs to expose corporate fraud. Whistleblower tech. I called it in my pitch deck. The kind that could topple kings if aimed right. Investors bit during virtual coffees, VCs from Sand Hill Road who smelled blood in the water of post-pandemic ethics scandals. Edgy, one said, a balding ex-Google exec with a Tesla key fob. But marketable. Lean into the underdog story. Underdog.
Yeah.
I leaned hard. Bald head under a beanie. Port still bruising my chest. I zoomed from my thrift store couch, spinning yarns of resilience that masked the rage. Revenant grew roots in the cloud, tendrils snaking into datasets no one else touched, dark web dumps. FOIA requests I'd filed pro bono from my hospital bed. It learned fast. Too fast. Spotting patterns in the noise, insider trades masked as philanthropy, NDAs burying assaults in boardrooms. My first beta test? A mid-sized pharma firm cooking trial data on opioids. One leaked report, and their stock tanked 40%. The payout from a class action suit bought me my first real office, a co-working space in Fremont, overlooking the salt flats where tech dreams evaporated. But the Hales? They thrived. Derek's quarterly earnings call boasted record profits from a new facial rec ID contract with ICE, ironic, given how they'd ghosted me. Lila posted yacht selfies from Monaco. Captions dripping privilege, grateful for family first. Mom's Christmas card arrived like clockwork. A gilt-edged nothing. Thinking of you this season. Strength. No return address. Just the postmark from their Bellevue estate. I framed it on my wall. A talisman. By spring, the tumors shrank. The scans cleared remission, fragile as fog off the bay. I was alive, but not whole. The betrayal festered like scar tissue, pulling tighter with every headline about Hale Dynamics IPO whispers. That's when I found the secret. Not by accident, but by design. Revenant wasn't just a product, it was my scalpel. I fed it scraps from Dad's old files, digitized ledgers I'd swiped as a teen, back when I was the family IT girl fixing Mom's Blackberries. It spat out anomalies, payments to Shell Core in the Caymans, timestamps matching Dad's business trips to Eastern Europe. A cross-reference with declassified docs. And boom, Hale Dynamics hadn't just sold drones, they'd peddled backdoors to regimes that used them for ethnic cleansings. Dad's mistake. Buried under Mom's signatures.
She'd known. Covered it.
And when the feds came sniffing in '09, post-financial crash, who'd taken the fall?
Me.
16-year-old me. Hacking into their servers to prove a glitch. Per Mom's tearful plea. Juvenile records sealed. But the stain stuck, scholarships denied, jobs ghosted. I'd carried their sin on my back while they sailed yachts. The rage crystallized then, diamond hard. I could have gone public, nuked them from orbit.
But where's the poetry in that? No.
I wanted them to watch me rise, to beg at my feet when the throne was mine. Revenant scaled, partnerships with NGOs, TEDx talks where I veiled threats as inspiration. Tech isn't neutral, it's a mirror. Look close and see your sins. VCs poured in by fall. We hit Series B. Valuation at $50 million. I moved to the Valley, a glass-walled loft in Palo Alto. Hired a skeleton crew of misfits, exiles like me, coders with grudges and genius. We built walls, NDAs thicker than my port scars, equity stakes to bind loyalty. Derek reached out first, casual as a cold call. Heard you're making waves. Kenzie. Coffee? Catch up. I met him at a spot in Menlo Park, the kind with oat milk lattes and venture bros eavesdropping. He looked older, crow's feet from squinting at spreadsheets, but the entitlement gleamed. Impressive, he said, stirring his pour-over. But volatile market. Need stability? Hale could acquire, fold you in. Family discount. I smiled, the one that didn't reach my eyes. Family.
Cute.
Last I checked, you wrote me off like bad debt. He shifted, that Wharton polish cracking. Water under the bridge. Mom's regrets.
And hey, with your
Health history. It's smart to have a safety net.
health history.
The word landed like a slap. I leaned in, voice low. Tell Mom the bridge is burned. But send my regards to the feds. I hear they're auditing old contracts. His face drained, coffee forgotten. I left him there, tab open, walking into the California sun like a woman reborn. That night, Revenant pinged, a buried email chain from Mom to Dad. 2008. The girl's expendable. Frame the hack on her, seals the deal. My hands shook as I forwarded it to my lawyer. Not for court, but for leverage. The game was on. Lila tried next. All charm offensive. A gala invite. Hale Dynamics Ethics and Innovation fundraiser at the Tech Museum. I went, bald head hidden under a wig, black gown that hugged my post-chemo frame like armor. She air-kissed me in the foyer, perfume cloying as hypocrisy. Kenzie, you look
Fierce.
We need to talk. Mom's worried.
Worried.
I sip my champagne, scanning the room. Politicos, tech titans. Mom holding court by the drone demo. Her laugh a blade. About? I asked, feigning innocence. Lila's eyes darted. The rumors. Your app, it's
Disruptive.
to us. Disruptive. Code for dangerous. We slipped into a side room. Velvet curtains muffling the jazz trio. She paced, heels clicking like accusations. Derek says you're digging. Stop. For God's sake. We're blood.
Blood.
The word twisted in me. Blood? You left me to rot in that bed while you brunched with senators. What's the ask? Lila? Mercy? She stopped. Face crumpling, not crocodile tears, but real. The kind that comes from glimpsing your own void. It wasn't like that.
Mom.
She had to protect the legacy. Dad's mess. We were kids. Kids. I was a kid when I perjured for her queen. I pulled out my phone, thumbed open Revenant's demo, a simulated run on Hale's public filings. Red flags blooming like blood cells under a scope. Ethnic profiling algorithms sold to private prisons. Backroom deals with cartels via Mexican proxies. Her eyes widened. This is bluff. You wouldn't. I pocketed it. Try me. Or better, convince Mom to confess.
Publicly.
Clean slate. She laughed.
Bitter.
Confess? She'd burn the world first. And there it was, the flip. Lila, the peacemaker, hardening into ally or foe. She left without a word. But I saw the crack, the first fracture in their facade. Mom's move came swift. A summons to the estate. Bellevue's old money enclave. Manicured lawns hiding the rot. The house loomed like a cathedral of lies. Dad's portrait in the foyer gazing down with painted remorse. She waited in the study. Fire crackling. Scotch in hand. Evelyn Hale. 60, but passing for 45. her bob silver-streaked like shrapnel.
Seat.
Darling. Darling. The endearment curdled. We danced the dance, regrets voiced in velvet. My success a marvel that honored Dad. But under it, the steel, this vendetta?
Petty.
We're Hales. We endure. I met her gaze. The one that once cowed me. Endure? You sacrificed me for your sins. The hack. The cover-up. I carried it all. Her glass paused mid-sip. Necessary. You were young. Resilient. It bought us time.
Time.
For yachts and legacies. I leaned forward. Time's up. Revenant knows. The board knows. Resign. Or, I drop the payload, every dirty secret. Time-stamped. She laughed then, low and throaty. The sound of a woman who'd buried bodies metaphorical, and maybe not. Blackmail? From my own blood?
Oh.
Kenzie. You're playing checkers. I'm chess. And she flipped the board, dossiers on my team, leverage on my VCs, threats veiled as concerns. My misfits? Hacked. Doxed. One coder, a trans kid from Oakland, got death threats that night. I raged, but she was already 3 moves ahead. Derek's acquisition offer now, a hostile bid rumor whispered in Bloomberg chats. The tension coiled. Spring tight. Revenant countered. Leaks to journalists. Anonymous tips that chipped Hale's stock like acid rain. Protests at their HQ. Activists chanting surveillance sells souls. Derek called. Voice frayed. You're destroying us. For what? Pride.
Pride.
I hung up, but the doubt wormed in. Was I the monster now? Polarizing headlines screamed yes. Tech heiresses revenge or justice. Pundits split. Feminists hailed my survivor arc. Conservatives decried family sabotage. My inbox flooded. Death wishes from patriots. Marriage proposals from radicals. By winter, the climax brewed. Series C closed at $200 million valuation, Google-eyed acquisition. But I held out for the kill shot. Mom's annual gala, black tie affair at the Space Needle. Toasts to secure futures. I crashed it. Uninvited. Revenant pendant around my neck like a noose. The room hushed as I took the mic. Post-dinner. Chandeliers dripping light like melting ice. To family I said, voice amplified. Steady. The kind that betrays you in sickness, buries your sacrifices, and builds empires on your bones. Gasps rippled. Mom stood, face a mask. Security. But I was wired, live streamed to 1 million followers. Revenant feeding the feed in real time. Docs scrolling. Dad's emails. My sealed juvenile record cracking open like an egg. This is Evelyn Hale. I continued. Who framed her daughter for war crimes to save her ass. This is the legacy. Chaos erupted. Flashes popping. Guests fleeing. Derek lunging for the mic only for Lila to block him. Flip number 2. Her hand on his arm a plea or a restraint. Mom charged then. Not with fury, but calculation, whispering in my ear as sirens wailed distant. You think this ends us? It ends you. That cancer? It comes back. And next time, no one's saving you. Her words, a poison dart. But I saw it, the tremble, the fear. I'd pierced the queen. The fallout blurred, lawsuits flying, Hale stock cratering 70%. Mom's arrest on fraud charges, ironic cuffs on the woman who'd cuffed me young. Derek vanished to Dubai. Lila sold her shares and fled to therapy in Sedona.
posting vague wellness quotes. Me?
Revenant sold to a non-profit consortium for $92 million. The number of fuck you to their ledgers. I donated half to cancer research. Kept the rest for a quiet life, maybe a cabin in the Cascades. Code for pleasure, not profit.
But the twist?
In the end, as Mom rotted in federal holding, she sent one last letter, postmarked from the pen. You were always the strongest. Kenzie. Forgive?
No.
Understand? The sins were mine, but the blood, it's ours. Enclosed, Dad's real will, unsealed. Not shares to the heirs, but a trust for me alone, for the one who carries the weight.
She'd known.
Hoarded it. Let me fight for scraps while she watched. Was it victory? Or just another layer of the lie? I burned the paper, but the ash clung. Family's a ghost, haunting the machine. And in the quiet, I wonder, did I avenge or become them? The cabin smelled of pine and regret, the kind that seeps into the logs like sap, sticky and impossible to sand away. I'd bought it sight unseen after the sale, a A-frame tucked in the Olympic shadow, far from the valley's hum and the hail's echo. 92 million bought freedom. Or so the therapist said, the one Lila recommended in her one contrite text. Sedona's helped.
Try it.
As if a weekend retreat could scrub the marrow-deep grudge. But freedom's a liar. It amplifies the quiet, turns every creak into a footstep on the porch. I'd been there 3 months, code idling on an old laptop, when the dreams started. Not the chemo ones, the bald, barfing horrors that woke me sweating sheets to the shape of 4 poles.
No.
These were sharper. Mom in her cell, orange jumpsuit clashing with her silver bob, whispering blood like an incantation. Dad's portrait coming alive, eyes following me through the estate halls, mouth opening to spill not words, but code, binary rain exposing the back doors he'd sold. And me, always me, 16 again. Fingers flying over a keyboard in the attic. Mom's voice from the stairs. Do this for us. Darling. Be the hero. Hero. The words soured in my mouth, bitter as the last chemo round. I'd framed it as justice in the aftermath, op-eds in the Times, podcasts dissecting the Hale reckoning as a feminist takedown of patriarchal tech. Mackenzie Hale, from cancer ward to boardroom warrior. One wired piece gushed. My shaved head airbrushed to fierce stubble. But late nights, bourbon in hand by the cabin's stone hearth. The truth gnawed. I'd poison them because they poisoned me first. But whose hand shook on the cup? Polarization lingered like a bad review. Half the world hailed me as avenger, the other half as the ungrateful bitch who'd nuked her nest. Derek resurfaced first. A ghost in my inbox. No subject. Just coordinates. A dive bar in Tacoma. The kind with peanut shells and ex-cons nursing PBRs. I almost deleted it. But curiosity's a cruel code, always compiling the next line. He looked wrecked when I walked in. 3-day beard. Eyes bloodshot from more than jet lag. Dubai hadn't agreed. Rumor said he'd blown his parachute on hookers and horse races. The golden boy tarnished brass. Kenzie, he said, sliding a stool my way. Voice gravel. Truce.
Truce.
I sat. Ordered a whiskey neat, the burn a reminder I could still feel. For what? Your cut of the will Mom hid. He flinched.
Good.
I leaked that too. Post-arrest. The trust docs hitting TMZ like confetti at a funeral. 20 mil earmarked for the burdened child. Me. The scapegoat. It hadn't softened the headlines. Just added fuel. Heiress hoards dead dad's fortune. Family in ruins. Derek swirled his beer. Foam dying in the glass. She played us all. Me included. Thought I was next in line. But nah, you were the failsafe. Dad's guilt trip. Guilt trip. The word hung, heavy as the bar's neon buzz. We talked then, halting, like debugging old code, lines that compiled wrong years back. He admitted the abandonment, board vote, Mom's sway, his spineless yes. Thought you'd bounce back. Always did. Always did. Like resilience was a superpower, not a scar. But buried in his ramble. A flip, there's more.
The back doors?
Not just Dad. I greenlit expansions, post your leak. To China. Via proxies. Payback. Or survival. His eyes dared me. Judge. Or join. I didn't. Walked out into the salt-laced rain. Tacoma's shipyards groaning like old bones. But the seed planted. Derek's confession fed Revenant's idle core that night. Back at the cabin, patterns emerging, hail remnants. Splinter firms Derek fronted, peddling the same sins to new devils. Controversial? Hell yes. Exposing him meant torching the last Hale Bridge. But letting it slide?
Complicity.
The debate raged internal. Avenger or architect? I slept fitless. Waking to Lila's call at dawn, unknown number. But her cadence unmistakable. Kenzie. Don't hang up. Her voice. Post-yoga serene. Laced with panic. Sedona hadn't sanded the edges. It just gilded them. Derek spiraling. Talking to feds. Flipping on Mom for a deal. But he's dragging you, says you knew. Pushed him.
Knew.
The lie twisted fresh. I gripped the phone. Cabin fogged with my breath. Pushed? I exposed what you buried. Your mess. Silence. Then her sigh. World-weary. Our mess. Dad's deals funded your coding camps. Kenzie. The trailer? Mom sold it to pay your tuition after the hack fallout. We carried you too.
Carried.
The narrative flip again, victim to villain in a heartbeat. I laughed.
Sharp.
Bullshit. You left me dying. But doubt crept, cold
as the floorboards.
She pressed. Come see. The estate. Papers. Unredacted. Truth serum.
Truth.
The word pulled. Magnetic north to my rage's compass. I drove south that afternoon. Olympics blurring to evergreens. Then suburbs. The estate gate yawning like a maw. Lila met me on the drive. Unchanged blonde waves. Lululemon chic. But eyes hollowed. Like sleep had become optional. Inside. The study unchanged. Dad's portrait. Fire grate cold. Boxes everywhere. Labeled in Mom's script for the archives. Lila poured tea, chamomile. Her Sedona tell. She wrote it all. Journal. From the beginning. She slid a leather-bound tome across the desk. Pages yellowed. Mom's cursive a snare. I flipped. Heart hammering. Entries from '07. Dad's deals souring. Bribes to officials. The drone glitch that misidentified a village wedding as a militant cache. Bombs dropped. Innocence vaporized. Mom's hand. We pivot. The girl codes. Frame it external. External.
Me.
But deeper. Derek too green. Lila too soft. Kenzie's fire, we need it. Then snuff if it burns. Snuff. The word chilled. Clinical. Pages turned. My chemo months. Her entries detached. Board agrees. Distance. Optics kill deals. Then. The kicker. The cancers lie. Not hereditary. Triggered by stress, the hacks fall out. My doing. Stress. My doing. She'd known the hacks scarred me deeper than records. A psychic bomb ticking to malignancy. I slammed it shut. Tea sloshing. This changes nothing. Lila's eyes pleaded. Everything. She loved you warped.
But.
Forgive. Forgive. The word mocked. A glitch in the code. I stood, but she blocked the door. Flip 3. Derek's selling out.
To you.
The trust? Leverage it. Buy Hale remnants. Rebuild clean. Family 2.0.
Buy.
Rebuild. The temptation coiled. Empire from ashes. Hale's redeemed under my thumb. Controversial as hell. Savior or slaver? I left without answering. Journal clutched like contraband. The drive north blurred tears with rain. Cabin lights a beacon in the dusk. That night, revenant word to life fed the journal scans, cross-refed with Derek's leaks. Patterns bloomed. A new player. Mom's silent partner all along. A VC firm. Apex Capital. Bankrolling the sins from shadows. And me, early investor in Revenant. Anonymous seed round. Complicit. Full circle. The rage reignited. But tempered now, not blind fire. But laser. I called Derek at 3 a.m., his Dubai line crackling. Deals on. But terms mine. His laugh.
Relieved.
Knew you'd see.
See. Yeah.
The plan coalesced. Hostile takeover of the remnants. Revenant's ethics, scrubbed clean. But buried clauses, backdoors of my own. Watching the watchers. Polarizing? Readers would riot. Redemption arc or revenge reloaded. Mom's trial loomed. Spring in Seattle's federal courthouse. A glass box of justice porn. I testified. Not as victim. But witness, calm. Wig-free. Scars bared like badges. Her eyes met mine across the well. Not defiant. But appraising, chess mastered upon promoted. Truth hurts. Darling, she mouthed as cuffs clicked post-verdict. Guilty. 20 years minimum. But in the lobby, Lila waited. Derek beside, reunited. Ragged.
Join us, he said.
The buyout. Your throne.
Throne.
The word echoed Dad's portrait. I nodded. The decision controversial. A split down my spine. Mercy or manipulation. We sealed it in a Menlo Park conference room. Papers signing away Hale's ghost to my machine. 92 mils interest accrued. Enough to swallow them whole. But as ink dried, Lila's whisper. She knew about the cancer trigger. Chose the company anyway.
Chose.
The final flip. Mom's as monster. Me as mirror. The empire rose anew. Revenant Hale. Ethics facade over watchful eyes. Family dinners resumed. Tense as tightrope. Derek's jokes landing flat. Lila's toasts to healing. But at night, alone in the Palo Alto loft, I run the code. Their emails scanned. Lives predicted. Forgiveness?
No.
Control. The debate rages online still. Hale airs empire. Justice or jailbreak. And in the quiet, I sip coffee. Black. Wondering if the poison was ever in the cup. Or the blood. Control's a fragile algorithm. One rogue variable from Cascade failure. 6 months post-buyout. Revenant hail hummed from Sandhill servers. A hydra of surveillance rebranded as predictive equity, algorithms that empowered communities by flagging inequities before they festered. Bullshit. Of course. But the PR spun gold. My face on billboards. Bald head icon for resilient innovation. TED follow-up where I preached. Betrayal births breakthroughs. Crowds ate it. Checks cleared. Derek handled ops. His Wharton's smarts laundered through my oversight. Backdoors, I coded myself. Silent sentinels logging every keystroke. Lila? Creative director. Her Sedona glow masking the pill bottles I glimpsed in her purse. Family 2.0. Functional. Fractured. A powder keg with a short fuse. The cracks showed at the first board retreat. Big Sir Cliffs dropping to Pacific foam. The kind of backdrop that screams reinvention. We helicoptered in, me at the stick. Licensed post-remission. The thrill of rotors drowning doubt. Over quinoa salads and vision quests, Derek pitched expansions. Facial rec for urban safety. Pitched to LAPD with a wink to private bidders. Profits up 30%, he beamed. Charts glowing on the projector. I nodded. But Revenant pinged my watch. Anomaly in the bids. Ghost IPs tracing to Apex Capital. Mom's old shadow puppeteer. Apex. The name had haunted since the journal. A consortium of ex-CIA suits and silicon vultures who'd bankrolled Dad's sins. Then mine unwittingly. I'd buried the connection post-sale. A firewall of NDAs. But here it slithered back. Derek's sign-off on a Cayman transfer. Confrontation brewed over sunset wine. Terrace lanterns flickering like fireflies on meth. Explain, I said, voice low. Wineglass stem snapping in my grip. He shrugged. That golden boy nonchalance. Opportunistic. They approached, old contacts. Buys us margin. Margin.
Code for blood money.
Lila interjected. Her flip instinctive, peacemaker mode. Hand on my arm. Ken. It's clean now. Your ethics overlay.
Clean.
The lie grated. I pulled the tablet. Revenant demo running live. Transaction webs unfurling. Apex's tendrils in ethnic profiling apps deployed in border towns. Clean? This is the same poison.
Derek.
You flipped again. His face hardened. Wine forgotten. Flipped? You bought us to leash. Not lobotomize. Hale's DNA is dirty. Embrace it. Or we're footnotes. Footnotes. The word ignited the powder. I stood, chair scraping like a scream. Embrace? You abandoned me to die. The terrace fell silent. Staff retreating. Waves crashing below like applause for the unravel. Lila teared up. Classic deflection. We all suffered. Mom's rotting because of you. Because of me. The polarization peaked. Me versus them. Avenger turned autocrat. Derek lunged. Not violent. But desperate. Grabbing my wrist. Join the real game.
Sis.
Apex wants in board seats. Your cut tripled. Or burn it all again. Burn. The choice loomed. Controversial as a live wire. Expose and implode. Or infiltrate and own the beast. I wrenched free. Storming to the helipad. Rotors whipping salt spray as I lifted off alone. Big Sur shrinking to a scar on the coast. Back in Palo Alto. The loft's glass walls mocked. Views of success. Voids of trust. Revenant churned overnight. Full apex dive. Docks spilling like confetti from hell. Mom's partner? Not just funding, her lover. A Silver Fox operative named Harlan Voss, who'd whispered the frame job in her ear back in '09. And Dad? Complicit, but coerced, early Parkinson's. Judgment fogged. Voss pulling strings via threats to us kids. Us kids. The revelation twisted. Mom's steel wasn't solo. It was scaffolded on Voss's shadow. A call to her cell at dawn. Voice tinny through the glass partition. Harlan, I said. No greeting. Silence. Then her laugh.
Faint.
Sharp as ever.
He was.
Necessary.
Necessary.
Like me at 16. Apex is Derek's new daddy.
She sighed.
The sound of a queen dethroned. Survival. Darling.
You taught me that.
Taught. The flip from her, victim now. Me the teacher of cruelty. I hung up. Resolve hardening. The climax crested at the shareholder meet. San Jose Convention Center. A hive of suits and screens. Derek and Lila flanked me on stage. Smiles plastic as the podium. Cameras rolled. Analysts live tweeting. My keynote. From ashes. Equity. Slides flipped. Revenant's triumphs. Hale's redemption arc. Then, the hack my own. Theatrical. Screen glitched. Apex webs blooming. Voss's face. Grainy mug from a '90s bust. Deals dominoing to current bids. Gasps rippled. Stock ticker plunging, virtual red. This is the legacy. I thundered. Voice echoing. Not ours to carry, yours to dismantle. Chaos. Shouts from the floor. Derek bolting backstage. Lila frozen. Her hand hovering like a plea. Security swarmed, but I held. Mic live.
Derek hale.
Colluding with Apex. Lila. Complicit in the cover. Complicit. The word weaponized our blood. Voss himself appeared then. From the wings, tall. Patrician. Eyes like chipped ice. MS. Hail, he purred. Mike snatched. Bold. But incomplete. And the counterhack. My screen split. Revenant's core code scrolling. Backdoors I'd planted. Now exposed as surveillance on activists. My misfits doxed in retaliation. The room polarized live. Cheers from whistleblower allies. Boos from investors. Feds in the aisles. Voss cuffed mid-smirk his play, tipping them for immunity. Derek tackled me off stage. Rage real. You ruined us again. But Lila pulled him back. Her final flip calling security on him. Tears streaming. Enough. Brother. She's right.
Right.
Or just vengeful. The arrests blurred. Voss to black sites. Derek to holding. Lila testifying for leniency.
Me?
Cleared. But charred, Revenant seized for forensics. The $92 million frozen in audits. I retreated to the cabin. Olympics snow blanketing the lies. The twist landed via courier. Mom's last will. Smuggled from her cell. Not just the trust, a confession video. Time-stamped pre-trial. Her face. Unmasked. Kenzie. My fire. The cancer? I triggered it knowingly, stress from the frame. Yes. But I dosed your water that summer. Mercury traces. To make you pliable. Focused on code, not questions. Voss's idea. Forgive?
No.
But win, for us both.
Dosed.
The betrayal abyss deep. Mother to monster. I watched it loop. Frame by frame. The debate internal eternal. Expose the tape. Nuke the remnants. Or bury it. Claim the Void Throne? Headlines speculated. Hail Saga ends? Or sequel? Friends divided, some urging therapy, others torches. In the end, I burned the drive. Ashes to the wind off the bluff. Revenant Reborn open source. Code freed to the wild. Derek plea bargained community service. Lila vanished to ashrams anonymous. Mom died in custody. Natural causes, Voss's shadow lingering. Victory?
Bitragic, he lived.
But the blood echoed. A ghost in every line of code.
Now.
Coffee black by the hearth. I code for pleasure, small apps.
No empires.
Family? A word, not a wound. But in the quiet, I wonder, was the revenge mine? Or there's the final flip, leaving me speechless in the mirror?